So today I'm going to show you how I made this toad costume for my 6-month-old nephew. So we're going to start with a magic loop cast on. And then we're going to chain 2. And then work 12 double crochet into the loop. And then we're going to pull the loop shut and then slip stitch into the first double crochet. And that's round 1. Then we're going to chain 2 and not count that one as a stitch. We're going to put 2 double crochet into each stitch around, so that should give us 24. And that should give us 24. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 24. Slip stitch in the first double crochet. And we're going to chain 2 for row 3. We're going to work 1 double crochet into this first stitch. And then 2 double crochet into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that pattern all the way around. 1 single crochet in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 2 double crochet in the next, all the way around. For a total of 36. So we had 12 in the first round, 24 in the second. We should have 36 in this last one. Slip stitch into the first double crochet. And then we're going to move on to round 4, which will be the last of the increase rounds. We're going to chain 2. And now we're going to put 1 double crochet in the first 2 stitches. And then 2 double crochet into the third. And we're going to follow that pattern all the way around. And that should give us a total of 48 stitches. We're going to slip stitch into the first double crochet. So that's the end of rows 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the end of our increase rounds. And what we're working on is the top of the hat before we stop with the increases. And we'll work rows 5 through 12 to get the side of the hat. So now I'm going to show you how to bind off and sew in your tails. So just pretending that this is the finished hat, we'd finish our round, chain 1, draw out a big loop, and then I'm going to cut my yarn. And I always like to leave longer tails. I just feel like it's easier to sew them in if there's a little bit more length. But for the magic loop tail, after you pulled it a little snug, I like to go in under 1 or 2 of the stitches, draw out that tail, chain 1, and pull it through. That way it's secure and I can sew in my tail from there using a tapestry needle. I like this one because there's a little bit of a bend in it. Just thread the needle go through a couple stitches. Because the finished hat is going to have a red circle on the top, you could technically just leave this tail exposed and cover it with the red circle, but just for consistency, I'll sew this in a couple times. And then snip it off. I need better scissors. And then you do the same thing with the tail on the brim of the hat. I like to go up at the 45 or at the diagonal. It can be random too, but I find it works better for me if I go at the angles instead of just laterally or vertically. And then you're done. Now to make our red circles for the hat, you're going to follow steps 1 through 3 for the hat pattern, binding off and leaving a really long tail so you can sew that to the white hat afterwards. So this is essentially what would become a hat if we kept going, but we're just making 5 of these circles. And then you'll sew them on the front, the top, back, and each side. So now we're going to work on the back panel, which is essentially 36 double crochets for 8 rows total. Then on the 9th row, we're going to bind off or slip stitch across 3. Then we're going to chain 2, work 29 stitches, because that chain will count as the 30th. And we'll stop here, chain up, and then work another 1, 2, 3, 4 rows for 9, 10, 11, and 12. Then we're going to continue on one side for 3 more rows of double crochet following the chain 2 pattern, double crochet for 6 more stitches for 3 rows. Then we're going to join a new strand of yarn, chain 2, work 6 stitches across, and then follow it up with 2 more rows, and then we'll be done. So to start, we're going to chain 38. Thirty, 31, 32, 38. Then we're going to do a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. We yarned over. Starting the first round, basically right here. And we're going to double crochet all the way across the chain. Now we're coming up on the end of row 1 for the back panel piece. And when we're done, we should have 36 double crochet. Yep, 35 with the chain counting as the 36th. Chain 2 for row 2, turn, and work double crochet all the way across. We're going to continue that for 8 rows. So now we're coming up on the end of row 8. Pretty easy, just double crochets all the way across. Rows 9 through I think 15, or it gets a little intricate. Okay, so then We finished row 8. We're not going to chain 2. We're going to turn the work, and then we're going to slip stitch across the second stitch from the edge for 1, again for 2, and a third for 3. Then we're going to chain right here in the pattern. So then we're going to chain 2 and go across, only 29 more, so for a total of 30, leaving the last 3 unfinished. And then we're going to work up for 4 rows till we get to the back of the neck and then do the shoulders. After we've slip stitched 3, chain 2 and 29 double crochet, and we should have 30 stitches total. Okay, we're going to leave these last 3 unfinished for the armhole. We're going to chain 2 for the next row, turn, and then we're going to work 3 more rows of double crochet just like that. Okay, here we are coming up on the end of that 4th row. We should have 30 stitches. We started with 36 and we bound off 3 on one side and then skipped 3 earlier on the other. Okay. And now we're just gonna work the shoulder. So we're ending right around here. We'll turn the work. Chain 2. And then we're gonna make 6 double crochet for a total of 7 stitches. And 6. Okay, and then we're gonna work back for 2 more rows of those 7 double crochet. Chain 2 and turn. Chain 2 and turn for the last row. Chain 1 and pull through. And we finished one side. For the other shoulder, we're going to have to join in the working yarn in the 7th stitch from the edge. So we're going to count the chain as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Put my hook through that 7th. Take your working yarn. This is the way I like to join in a new yarn. Pull through, wrap both, and then I pull through until the tail pops out. Then I pull the loop tight. From here, I'm going to chain 2 and then continue on to the edge of the work. 6 more stitches, double crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the chain at the end for 6. Chain 2 and turn. Work double crochet all the way across. Chain 2 for that last round, turn the work. chain 1, pull out. And now this tail where we join in the new yarn, you can just sew that in with the tapestry needle and just make sure it's secure because you don't want it to slip out. So these are the panels that we're going to be making for the vest. It's 17 double crochet, and then we're going to work that for 8 rows. Then we're going to slip across 3 stitches similar to the back panel piece, and then on the other side we're going to work a decrease double crochets on every round until we get to 7 stitches. So to start, we're going to cast on 19, a chain of 19. 1, 2, 18, 19. Then we're going to work a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then double crochet all the way across that foundation chain. Okay. And that should give us a total of 17 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 17. So we did 16 double crochet plus the chain 2 on the end. And for row 2, chain 2, turn the work, and then work 1 double crochet, not in this first chain, not in this first stitch. We're going to count the chains as the first post, and we're going to go right into the 2nd stitch. Working regular double crochets into each stitch. And as you get to the end of the row, it might get a little tricky at first, but it gets easier the more you do it. So right here we have our last double crochet from the first row, and then this chain that we did. So the 2nd stitch from the edge is a double crochet, but the last double crochet we're going to work is going to be into this chain. So if you look at it from the side, you can see the little V is. I like to go right inside there, out through the back. And that's the end of row 2. So we're going to repeat that for 8 rounds of total, and that'll bring us to right here. So here I'm coming up on the end of row 8. And when you're done, so that last double crochet, and then finally into that last chain on the end. Should look like this, nice little square almost. And that's this part of the panel. So we haven't done any decreases or slip stitches yet. It's just the 17 double crochet across for 8 rows. And then we're going to look at it from the other side. And these patterns are reversible, so right here is the start of row 9. We're going to start with slipping 3 stitches, chaining up 2, and then working double crochet up into the last 2 stitches where we're going to work a double crochet decrease. And then when we turn the work around again, we're going to chain up to the next row, work another double crochet decrease, and then double crochets in every stitch all the way across. So one side will get that slanted look on the inside of the vest with all the double crochets happening on this side, and over here we just have the slip stitches, but this goes up straight because we're just chaining up and then double crocheting into the chain on the row before. Right here we're about to start row 9. So we finish the double crochet, we're not going to chain, we're going to turn the work and put our hook into the 2nd double crochet from the edge, pull the yarn through for 1, for 2, and for 3 stitches. So we've essentially just bound off these 3 stitches. We're going to chain 2 to be the first double crochet in the round, yarn over, and work double crochets in each stitch until the very last 2, where we'll where we'll work that double crochet decrease. And this knits up pretty quick because each row is shorter than the one before it with all the decreases. Okay, now we're at the last 2 stitches. We've got our double crochet and the chain from the one before. So to work a double crochet decrease, if you've never done one before, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the chain, into the stitch, pull up a 3rd loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2. You're going to yarn over again, but instead of pulling through, you're going to dive into the 2nd stitch, pull it up, pull through the first 2 again, and then through the last 3. And that is our double crochet decrease. We're going to chain 1, 2, turn the work. And so this is the same side that has all the diagonal decreases. We're going to work another double crochet decrease. So we're going to yarn over. Now this would be normally the first stitch we'd enter into, but because these are bound together, we're actually going to go into this stitch, which looks like the 2nd stitch from the edge. Pull up the yarn over, pull up the first 2 loops, yarn over again, dive down into the next stitch, pull through the first 2 and last 3. And then we've worked another double crochet decrease. Continue with this pattern, working the double crochet decreases on the same edge of each round. And we're just going to do double crochet all the way to the end, to where we bound off those stitches before. And into the chain. So you can kind of already see the little slant happening on this side. It'll become more apparent as we continue. So for the next row, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, no decreases on this side, go into that 2nd stitch with a double crochet, all the way across until we get to the last 2 stitches. Okay, now we've got the last 2 stitches there. The chain on the end counts as 1 stitch, and then these 2 stitches that we're joined together count as the 2nd. So we're going to yarn over, go into that stitch, pull up a loop, yarn through the first 2, yarn over again, going through that chain stitch, pulling through the first 2 loops again, and then the last 3. And that's our double crochet decrease, and we're going to repeat chain 2, turning the work, keeping all the decreases on the same side. We're going to yarn over, go into that 2nd stitch, pull up, pull through the first 2, yarn over again, into the next stitch, pull through the first 2, and into the last 3. And we worked another decrease there. And then just double crochet across. And we're going to continue with these decreases until we get 7 stitches, until we're left with 7 stitches. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a decrease for 7. We're going to chain 1, pull up, snip the yarn, pull through, and now we've got our 2nd panel. So these are all the pieces we have so far. We've got our 5 red circles, our white hat and our back panel and our 2 front panels. The trim will be the last step because we have to construct everything and then sew in the tails. So let's start with the vest. We're going to join the vest at the shoulders where there's 7 stitches in the front and 7 stitches in the back. Using a tapestry needle, you can just sew across with one of the long tails, bind, and then along the edge or the sides, you can either single crochet across the back or use a tapestry needle to sew them together. This last one I don't pull all the way through, I leave a little bit of a loop so that I can pull through the working yarn. Then I'll just sew in the tails and snip the edges. So once everything's sewed on, this is what it's going to look like. Sewed in all the tails, kind of eyeballed where I put the red circles, but I know the top one is centered. And one on the front and the back, and then on each side. And the vest, I seamed it on this side, so I'm going to flip it inside out so that if any tails pop out, they'll be on the inside of the jacket or vest. I won't see any of those raised edges. And the last step is to do the gold trim. So I'm going to join this yarn in the bottom of the seam on one of the sides. So I'm going to slip stitch right there. Pull both through until the tail comes out. Tighten that working yarn. And do chain 1. And we're going to do a single crochet along each post. And then when I get to the sides, I'll do 2 in each double crochet. For the bottom corners of the vest, I'll do 3 so I can turn that corner and make a nice crisp point. And then I'll follow it along the inside of the neck. Same thing here where the double crochet meets the side of the double crochet meets the top of the double crochet. I'll do 2 on the side and then 1 in the top. And now we're done. It's a little trim. I feel like it could have been a little taller if I had maybe done a half double, but I had already started with the single crochet and I'm kind of happy with it. And there's our completed look.